I'm here in the 2019 BMW Z4. Now, it wouldn't be quite right to call this an all-new vehicle for BMW because they did make the Z4 for a long time. It is back, though, after a hiatus of a few years, and frankly, that's probably because the old model, even though it was nominally a sports car and a convertible, wasn't really that fun to drive. So I'm here in Palm Springs to test out the new Z4 and to see if it fixes the sins of the old one. Changes to the 2019 Z4 start with styling. So the old car, it was a kind of this weird mix of lines and curves that didn't really go together very well. The new car, it flows much better, and I think it's better looking overall. Starting with the front, you still have a kidney grille, but instead of the traditional vertical slats, you have almost what look like star particles coming out of each side, and up close it looks very attractive. The detailing is really impressive. And as you move back, strong character lines that kind of move from the front fenders down the sides to the rear. Overall, the whole thing looks lower. It's actually wider and longer than the old car, and BMW says that the new car also has pretty much 50-50 weight distribution, which is supposed to help balance it in the corners. One other big change, it now has a soft top instead of the hard top, and that saves you some weight, and that's kind of what you want in a Roadster. And I took it up on a windy road to see if it helped with the car's agility. BMW has announced that there will be two variants of the Z4 coming in pretty short order. The S-Drive 30i, which I'm in now, and the faster M40i, which will follow a little bit later. The S-Drive 30i comes with a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder under the hood, and it makes 255 horsepower, but a really impressive 295 pounds-feet of torque. And that's a lot of torque to come out of a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and it makes a huge difference. This engine is one that we've seen before in other BMW models. It's good in those vehicles, it's really good in this one. The highlight of the Z4's driving experience is definitely how responsive that engine is, and not only that, how responsive its 8-speed automatic transmission is. Not only does it shift quickly, it also does a very good job of holding gears when you're in either Sport or Sport Plus mode. So much of the Z4 is configurable. This one also has the optional Adaptive M suspension, and there's all sorts of different settings that you can dial up in a menu. So beyond Sport and Sport Plus, there's also an individual Sport setting where you can kind of change up the settings, make them how you like them. As I mentioned before, the Z4 has nearly perfect 50-50 weight distribution, and what that does is it makes it a very balanced car in the corners. Now, this vehicle also has the optional Adaptive M suspension, which means that when you put it into Sport or Sport Plus, it stiffens up the dampers, it stiffens up the ride, so when you toss it into a corner, it stays pretty flat, impressively flat, for a front engine rear-wheel drive car, and that helps you put down power on exit because it feels like the car is balanced coming out of a corner and you're able to get on the gas a little bit sooner. Balance is only part of the handling equation, and it's the other part where the Z4 does fall a little bit short for me, and that would be steering feel. The wheel, it does have a good amount of weight to it, especially when you put the car in its more aggressive driving modes, but what I'm speaking of is not weight, it's something more specific than that, and that would be feedback. When you're driving a car hard, as this car, kind of wants to be driven, you want more feedback and not less. You want to know what the tires are doing. You want to know when you're approaching the limits of the car's grip. The problem with the Z4 is that when you approach those limits, it gets a little bit vague. There's not enough feedback from the wheel to let me know what the front tires are doing, and the suspension, since it has those adaptive dampers, it kind of is working to smooth out the imperfections and keep it, perfectly flat. So you're not quite sure where the edge of the car is, and that's really not a thing that you want when you're trying to drive hard. In the vast majority of driving, that won't really be an issue, like, commuting or driving around day to day, but you don't buy a sports car for the 90% of the time, you buy it for that 10% of the time when you want to get out there and drive the car hard. And the Z4 is almost there, but not quite. Even though the Z4 isn't quite sharp enough for me, I still found plenty to like about this vehicle. I'm a big fan of the styling changes on the outside and the powertrain. Even though this is the less powerful model, I still think it's a pretty good engine and transmission combination. Inside, it's also a massive leap forward from the previous Z4. You have these two high-resolution screens in front of you feeding you information, and BMW's iDrive multimedia system has come a long way, and it's now one of the easier systems that I've found to use in luxury vehicles. This screen also, it might look like it's super far away from you, but I could actually reach it from the driver's seat without leaning forward, and that gives me the choice of using either the screen or this knob down here to control multimedia functions. The 2019 Z4's pricing is fairly aggressive. This S-Drive 30i model starts at just over $50,000, including destination charges, and for that, you get a very balanced car with a pretty good powertrain. Now, if you're interested in this car, good news is you won't have to wait long. S-Drive 30i models will go on sale starting in March, with M40i models to follow later in the year.